evening. Good evening, thank you for being with us. I now call this meeting on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. Order, we will have an introduction from pastor of the day by Commissioner Roll, followed by other readings.
If we can please stand tonight, we'll have our occasion by Pastor Willis Mullen Sr., the pastor at Bethel Baptist Church, and our Gainesville meeting.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer to the group and other community. Bless our agenda to be fruitful for the common good. Grant that our mayor and these commissioners have ears to listen to the people that they serve in this community. Bless them with the ability to act with justice. We ask your blessing upon our entire city, which we love. Asking you, Lord, to remember all the brothers and sisters, president of this great nation. And in all ways, we give you the praise and honor. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Pastor, for being with us today, bless us with those words. We will now move on to the adoption of our August 3rd regular meeting agenda. Do we have any agendas or changes before we vote?
I'd like to make a motion to change the order. We have two applicants that will consider approval of enterprise zone when they are separated. Items only in this one, I'd like to make a motion to move item number 7 up to part of number 4. And just put those close together.
Here, first and second, all those in favor, for that would sign aye. All those opposed, same here, none, motion passes. Now we have the voice. First and second, all those in favor, for that would sign aye. All those opposed, same here, none, the motion passes. Is on to number 2, we move on to appointments to our pension committee, city clerk Agnes.
Yep, there we got 2 appointments, which are city staff that's up for reappointment as the term has expired. We have the Bonnie Williams for the city clerk's office and Hank Burns from the Brunswick Police Department for consideration.
I think I had a chance to vote on this.
Make a motion that we approve the appointments to the pension committee of Bonnie Williams and Dave.
Here, first and second, all those in favor, use aye. All those opposed, same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to item C, consider for approval. Number 3, consider approval of July 20, 2022 regular session minutes. City clerk.
Motion to approve that's one.
Here, first and second, all those in favor, use aye. All those opposed, same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move to number 4, which is the bonding of minutes for they facilitate both of the enterprise and respect to that. So now we have to consider approval of the enterprise and incentive business district enterprise for 1315. Grant, here.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. In your packet is an enterprise zone application for 1315 Grant Street. This is King and Grant, which would be a new event facility downtown. The applicant is applying for waiver of the fees that have not yet been paid and also tax. And on the sheet, the Downtown Development Authority Board and Finance Committee have agreed with the 10-year tax statement schedule, so that's in your packets. And the second column name was changed for Commissioner Harris, so it's a little more clear that that's the tax they would pay. Third column there is standard tax, what would normally be the property tax. We have in the past questioned the new value, how that was come up with. I did talk with the assessor's office and compared how they do it to how I would do it, and it's the same. So, and I did look back at some of our previous enterprise zones and the values are within hundreds of dollars after the projects. So, this new estimated value is pretty close to what it would be once the project is completed. Let's see, I think total best project is $700,000, which will create 5 jobs plus the any new jobs that may be created by caterers who are servicing the facility. The building for the facility will hold up 500 guests, which, as you know, is a needed quantity. This building, for instance, will only hold 120 to 140 per seated customer. So 500 is a great number. We current number of people away because we just had that here. And two of the staff, thank you, Brown and Taylor, that's here. Yeah, how many people can you put in this building for no more than 140 per seated dinner, but 300 per reception. Seated for
I know we have the older new place to fix, so we had some come to the front, please, tell a little bit about our project. Mr. Piazza and Saturday, Brunswick. Some different ventures around our city. So appreciate your answers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Corey, Mr. Duffy, and Ms. Atkins. We're very excited to talk about this project, 1315 Grand. As it will be known, Queen and Grand will be, we hope to be the premier dedicated event venue for historic downtown Brunswick. And with this, we really hope to gain some traction in this purview for the city. We know that City Hall does a great job welcoming guests, events, weddings, and we're hoping to work with the city and other existing businesses to help create a flourishing downtown environment for events. That's one of the big pushes for this project in particular. The enterprise zone has helped us very much with the Leonis project, which is now the Port City Lofts. And it was, I would say, one of the key factors for us to decide to do a project along with historic tax credits and the enterprise zone and opportunity zone in the city. So this was a key factor for that project, and because it is not north of Gloucester, it is not in the opportunity zone. We want to try to utilize this particular enterprise zone that helps us get to those hurdles, which any type of concern for this type of development to take place. So we're very excited about it, and we're breaking ground, and we are hoping to deliver the project late October, early November, and open our doors and be open for business. So thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm going to pass it to the commission for any questions.
I'd like to ask, how are you going to farm 500 feet? Just get locked down.
Great. Thank you, We have, are planning to utilize some of our other properties, around, the city, to be able to, offer, parking. And try to think about some, solutions for transport to the site. We're also looking to utilize, the city, parking as well, whether it's Mary Ross or the, Monk Street lot, as well, Mansfield, rather, to help, shoulder some of that as well. So that's some of those. Parking.
So I tell you, my son went to college in Charleston, and he's living here in Union Street now. We were talking about parking in downtown. I talked to Matthew about it along Reed Street. And Jay said that, he said, people are going to be in downtown, whether they're not concerned with parking, they worry about parking. And that was really sure. And I believe that, I really do. They're going to come. And it's really right. And it's very easy.
Thank you very much.
Any additional questions?
I applaud what you're going to do there. You're totally invested in our downtown area. Thank you for that. Well, excited to see, I mean, obviously what's come about in the Otis building and, you know, it's, and then you have together your other property for working in Newcastle. I had an opportunity along with Ms. Guthrie and our director of public works to do a walkabout on Green Street. I think the one you were originally going to meet with you. And we just talked about, it was a good time for the three of us just to walk the whole length of Grant Street down and talk about everything. You know, what does it look like? What do we want it to look like? How can it be improved? How can we increase passage between your new location here coming in Grant and Newcastle Street, and just make sure that we have our best foot forward and we're holding on our end as well. So I want to thank you for what y'all are doing, what your vision is.
Thank you very much. Means a lot.
The only other thing I'm going to say is, I know in applying for the interviews, the minimum number of jobs that you can apply for and qualify is 5, which is what y'all are communicating. We do have to look at each applicant carefully, you know, whether having a meeting with all from a flexibility. And I think that, you know, for waiving permitting fees, I would be very much in favor of that. However, I would like to offer a different schedule of payment for taxes. My thought would be, and I'll happy to share this with. The other advantage that y'all have is you're within the footprint of the tax allocation district. And we put the tab, so it's all in place, with the vision that we would have a tax basis, and then year to year, revenue that's collected that is above what that tax basis is, that tax revenue goes back into the community within the tab footprint. So it's money that's reinvested. So my goal would be to offer a 3-year tax abatement at 80%, 3 years at 60%, and 2 years at 40%. This would still net a savings of $31,725, but it would put some of that funding back into reinvestment. So I wanted to explain all of that so that you understood it's not that we can keep less of your project, but we do have to give full consideration to the full breadth of what other applicants might be putting forward with their costs and street applications.
We're gonna have a few more, maybe. when time comes.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that, very much, and, we've been, an early supporter of the TAD project. We have tried to be able to check that box off for the city as well, with the Leonis project, with some of the beautification and the infrastructure work. Also that, Wall Street property, 2307 is also in the TAD. So yeah, we do remain very much a supporter of that project, and if we can help the city be able to utilize and check that box off for the city, we're here to do so. So, you know, again, that's part of the city and private enterprise can work together to create that. So we're very much in favor of trying to help however we can. I would like to kind of take a moment to digest that for with the 31,000, but I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any questions from the commission? I know we have Mayor Brooks Ayers, I think she is virtual. How do we tackle these? So, how do you track them?
Yeah, it's a good question. In terms of,
Instead of this property, five created, what is then
They have
mechanism?
a place for vendors. But I'm sure more jobs probably be added based on.
that's the hope there with all of these, it's the hope to be able to grow it, and be able to grow it robustly. as well. In terms of direct and indirect product as well.
Will receive from the field. Again, a list of projects that have used this enterprise zones that we do know is in this 22. That has helped we develop. Any additional questions?
No, I can just say thank you, for pulling this together, but it does show, again, over time, that we look at each applicant and their business and what the number of jobs, the facility, et cetera. So it is sort of that sliding, effect. Thing on something.
I don't want to move past any commissioners, but what I'm hearing is before us now is the 8-year tax abatement.
Yes.
Moving,
Stated.
moving from 80% the first 3 years, sliding to around 60, the next 3, and then 4 years for the last 2. That's what's next. So. Next is for vote.
I would make a motion to approve eliminating the fees, the permitting fees, et cetera. And then the tax abatement schedule is stated 3 years, 80%, 3 years, 60%, and 2 years.
Here in the first and second, all in favor, shall leave a sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you for seeing us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Up next, we have consider approval of enterprise zone decisions and the process of treatment of zone for 130 Monster Street.
This application is for Steve Ball Enterprise, a local real estate holding development company based here in the city of Huntington County. So the property is, address of 13 lot, and it is at the intersection of Alvin and Lawson. It's the new development that is supposed to be promised. So with this application, the applicant is seeking a property tax abatement and a waiver of city development fees, just as in the last application. Development is a one-story, two-unit commercial retail building, estimated about 3,400 square feet. Within that building, they will house original J's Fish and Chicken. That's a business that was here in the city at one point in time. The other unit will be commercial retail space that we built. Prior to Seed Corn's project, the property had been undeveloped, vacant for a number of years. Some people may know that this property has historical significance. They had this location of an African American hotel and a number of other significant businesses in the pre-segregation area. If you look in your packet, the tax abatement schedule is spanned out for 10 years. It is estimated to save the applicant around $13,000. In regards to the fees, prior to filing the application, the applicant paid about $3,500 to the city for building permitting fees. All, well, including the Economic Development Department of the Finance Committee, recommended approval for the tax abatement schedule and the waiver of the city fees, which in this case would be a refund of building permit fees and any other fees that will possibly approve the development.
Thank you, Mr. Tino. I'm sure you have questions. I just was around. Can you put it a little bit? Any fees that can incur?
So right now, they only pay to the city, they only pay the building for building permit fees. So, I'm not sure in their plans if they have like a sign plan or something else that needs to be approved by the city. That wouldn't be the case. Then this application gets waived or see that they would have to pay to the building department or any other department of the city.
Well, we do have separate facade grants, sign grants, etc. That's separate from the enterprise. The enterprise center is really connected to how many employees are going to be new hires.
Right. So when I'm speaking of fees, I'm just talking about fees that this actual program is waiting for the project.
City fees.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be occupation taxes, building permit fees, sign permit fees, like that, and the planning department fees, fire department planning fees. And according to the application, the only fees that they paid to the city so far was building permit fees.
But it would not include payment to joint water sewer.
Exactly.
Or payment to a civil engineer.
Thank you. I think students all this area that's not to develop. So we thank you for the yeah, I'm not saying this is not our first area. It's really in this town. On property in the city for years. All this building, Goodyear Avenue, we have some other property in the ground. So I'm invested in the city. If I live here, I'm going to make it easy. This is kind of special to me because of its nature. my parents, my mom, she was going to high school before high school education. Her parents sent her to South Institute. Get her high school degrees. Mankind has always been very special. This project here is something that I'm hopeful that because others to the best. But what we'd like to do, when we have balance data, about multi-commercial unit. The retail rental. As it turns out, primary tenant also gets. Hopefully, that will stop. We want this there for this release. I encourage the commission to accept the recommendation. It will make a big difference. I indicated earlier. Whatever they can suggest, whatever they can see, it's not returning to development. It's really benefit. It gives us an opportunity to face championship. The funding folks and committee immediate consent to learn. First class rate, cashier. For these additional funds which we allow us to utilize, we can consider not only to $10 we feel the credit business as time goes on. With respect to city, we are only the landlords. We before you as a whole, not only that we develop this retail, we develop another properties too. And so to the extent that you consider there'll be no increase in income to the holding companies because it's a lease. It's set aside rather than be a tenant. It's not as if the business gets better, city economy gets better. We have a contract with these facilities out. The businessman is Jay, I'm sure we all know Jay is. He knows how to run the business. We will turn over to see. I encourage this commission to accept the full recommendation. Be assured that whatever they can be able to receive, it really be the best. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Open this commission for any questions. Mayor Person, Harris,
I can.
Real quick, Danny Green never got cook, and we welcome him.
He loves the city.
There were some supporters of Danny Green, and they should have a lot.
And he loves the city. He is so people have to have a lot to.
Thank you. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
That's fine. I can barely understand anything that's being said.
Mayor Person will work on that and try to, I mean, if something's going on the computer, I see maybe something. We're trying to talk loud too. But we have before us, Judge Douglas and Seaport Enterprises. Activating before. So if you have any questions for Judge Douglas or now
We reviewed it. We reviewed this information in finance committee meeting. And I stated at that time that I am in favor of the city's portion that's being requested. But there was some other information that was supposed to be researched and provided to us so that the applicant could know what their options were on those assessments that are outside of the city's control. So I still stand as I did in our finance committee meeting.
Thank you for that, Mayor Person. Any questions?
I don't so much just have a question because the president is really the cost of the project that's involved water, sewer, tap in, I mean, there's fees involved, that's part of it. The city control the same thing with the, the civil engineer, so.
I would say that is that the target is in the region itself. Is just for that building over there, they go. One sewer. And you not get this sometimes surveys that they have to process that. We just feel. Activating.
There is a possibility too that I understand the judge was stated that they are the leaseholders of the currently attendant. If C4 were to apply for a sign to be placed on the building, if it was the will of the commission's time, those sign permit fees, they could be 15 as property to be exempt from those fees. If the applicant was coming from, or application was coming from the property owner of AC. So in the same sense, if there was anything above that normal sewer planning bill, the business license administration, sign permit fees, occupation taxes, they were application being received from the C, the enterprise will allow them to be considered for those fees.
So we get part time fees that come to.
That's correct.
From the city.
From the city.
From the city, yeah.
And as an applicant from the owner of the property.
Any questions you have from the commission?
Repeat what Brian just said, please, Mayor, because the sound system is terrible.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna try to paraphrase it. There may be additional fees incurred by Judge Douglas as we continue to develop this property. And we could proactively forgive those fees, forgive those city fees at this current moment in this vote.
I'll offer a motion then that we approve the building permitting fee credit or elimination of 35.45.41 cents, and any future city fees that would be applied against that same applicant. And that we follow the similar abatement schedule of the first 3 years at 80%, the next 3 years 60%, the next 2 years at 40%. So the applicant would realize the tax savings of about $8,600 for the taxes.
I was saying that the statute requires that it be a 10-year. Is that correct?
That's the maximum that can be offered. That is the maximum that can be offered. It's going to be negotiated case by case.
Mayor, first interested in being here, and just so you're here clearly, you let me know if you're not getting, or you're not here to something. What is before us now is the forgiveness of the building permit fees from the city in the amount of $3,545.41. Forgiveness proactively and any additional city permit fees that will be incurred by the business or landowner, and an amended schedule from the 10-year, the natural term 10-year abatement to a revised 8-year abatement, starting out in year 1 and going to year 3 at an 80% abatement, years 4 to year 6 at 60% abatement, year 7 and 8 at a 40% abatement, which is the exact abatement we just passed for Queens and Grace.
Okay, so you're saying that it equates to what we previously addressed in the finance committee meeting?
No, ma'am. You said it one more time.
I said, so you're saying that the abatement equates to what we previously reviewed?
No, the abatement is, what Commissioner Martin is putting before us is the amended abatement, which was the same amended abatement that we just did for Queens and Grant. So the original 10-year abatement that we had before us in the finance committee started out with going years 1 through 5.
Right. I understand, that she's wanting to change it as the prior schedule that she, addressed for the prior applicant, but I'm talking about the final figures, the final amount.
The final amount of collected taxes or savings to the developer.
The final, amount of savings to the developer
$8,592.35.
versus what was the prior amount?
Versus the original, the schedule that would have been.
Prior, yeah, the prior schedule amount. The
would
current
be-
amount, the current amount being addressed now per the revised schedule that Commissioner Martin is addressing versus the prior schedule that DDA presented.
That dollar amount is $13,404.07. The amended amount from Commissioner Martin is $8,592.35 for a difference of $3,809.
Okay. And so the reasoning, can please provide me with the reasoning on that again, please?
I will ask that Commissioner Martin.
It's based on the criteria of enterprise. Applying for it. The minimum number of employees that you're adding to the city, to the business is high.
I lost you. So can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I don't hear Commissioner Martin.
You couldn't hear me?
No, you sound much better now, but I had lost you, but I could hear Judge Douglas from his microphone, but I couldn't hear you from yours. But you sound much better than you previously sound now. Can you speak? Say something, Commissioner.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You sound clearer now.
Where's Matthew Hill? Oh, he's fine.
Because my
Matthew,
question.
Matthew, as businesses apply for the enterprise zone, they are given a schedule, are they not, of the maximum amount of tax abatement? Is that correct? Over the 10 years?
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet, but it's not necessarily guaranteed that every applicant will get the maximum amount based on the criteria of the enterprise zone. It's at the discretion of the commission as it moves forward.
Yes.
Correct? Yes. Okay. And I'm sorry, Mary Pro Tem, because you were not given the handout that the rest of us were from
Mhm.
Matthew Hill during this meeting that gave a historic perspective of all the applicants that have come before us for enterprise zone projects. And we have a variation across the board of these different applicants receiving different amounts of tax abatement based on their business and what they're bringing to the community as far as new jobs.
Right. And see, and that puts me at a disadvantage because I don't have privy to that information here. And so what's in my mindset is what we had addressed with the applicant previously in our finance committee meeting. So my contingency or my decision was made based upon that information that I had the opportunity to review. And I guess pretty much that's still kind of where I am. But I'm one person, but I'm still where I was based upon the information that I had the opportunity to review, because it was my understanding, even on the prior applicant, that DDA had reviewed that information, and that you were, I assumed, I won't say for certain, but I assumed that you were part of that prior decision with DDA based upon that prior schedule of abatement, percentages of abatement. But I'm not sure. Were you a part of that? But then did you go back and revise where you were based upon other information? So that's what I don't have privy to at present.
Yeah, and I can answer on specifically as far as DDA goes, since I do sit on that board, that we know that ultimately the city commission has the ultimate decision. And so we pass it along as is based on what the commission's will and pleasure is.
Okay.
So there was no specific discussion about changing anything, because we knew it would move forward to the city commission for a vote. And I've only proposed something. Where are we? Was it actually a motion? No. Okay. So we're discussing it.
Okay. All right. Well, so my way in on this is I stand with where I was in the finance committee meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I think, do we have any other questions?
Let me just make a point of clarification. There was a question asked about the number of jobs, and in the application, it does indicate, I think, 8 to 10.
8 to 10 jobs, not the minimum of 5.
So that would be a double of what we've seen the
Way
previous
above the minimum.
person have. Mayor Pro Tem, I would say at this point in time, you could present what was presented to the finance committee as a motion. We are at the point where we are, I think, unless we have any additional questions for Judge Douglas, we are at the point where we are ready for a motion, whoever wants to make a motion.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, after it goes through DDA, it goes to the finance committee. So yeah, DDA is not privy to what was necessarily decided in the finance committee.
Any additional comments or questions for Judge Douglas? I will say, number one, I'm glad that we were able to legally come to the understanding of being able to forgive the building permit fees. I wanted to make sure we got that done. So I'm glad that that is there. So that I want to make sure no matter what motion comes forth, because as a mayor, I cannot make a motion. Whatever motion comes forth needs to include the refund of the $3,545.41, as well as an abatement of any additional city fees. So whichever motion comes first, I just want to make sure we have that on the front end.
Well, I will ask Ms. McDuffie to chime in if she has any further comments about tax abatement schedule on this particular applicant. Unless
Well,
somebody,
not necessarily on this applicant. My thoughts are always to look at the abatements and look at, the fact that we are trying to build our TAD revenue so that we can reinvest that into the area. And that's always, my consideration is that we don't maximize that unless we feel that it's going to have such a significant impact on the community. But mainly, just to generate funds to be reinvested as well. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just wanted to make sure you got that.
I did, and it's the will of the body.
Okay, so we are now back at a place where we are open for a motion if there are no other questions. Mayor Pro Tem.
Are you asking me a question? Or are you asking me for a motion?
No, I'm asking you, I know you were saying you had a feeling of you wanted it to move forward as it came out of the finance committee. So I'm asking, do you want to put that forward as a motion?
Yes, in the manner in which we discussed it, we understood that we have no control over some of the applicants' requests, but those things for which the city has control of, I am making a motion to move forward as it was previously presented in the finance committee meeting.
Well, we don't know what that was.
Okay, so they didn't provide that information in the packet because I don't have it either.
Before you.
It was as presented, that option at the top.
The
where
original
it has
option. So
yes.
I could say it's,
Okay, so the maximum.
yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so it would be the motion before us now is to refund the building permit fees, abate any additional city fees, and then go with the original abatement schedule, which is as follows. Through years 1 through 5, you have 100% abatement. Years 6 and 7, it moves down to an 80% abatement. Years 8 and 9, year 8, it moves to a 60%. Year 9 moves to a 40. Year 10 moves to a 20. Again, the total savings on the original option is $13,404.07. That is the motion before us now. Do I hear a second?
I'll second motion.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Judge Douglas.
Thank you so very much.
Appreciate
I really
you.
appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Warm the grease up, Judge. You got flounder waiting for you. Yes, sir.
We will now move on to consider approval to renew the city's national flood insurance program and Lloyd of London flood insurance policies. Ms. Veely. How you doing?
Good evening. Let's see, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Barely.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a little better. Okay. I will try to speak up. Tonight I bring before you a renewal schedule for our additional flood insurance. The city of Brunswick renews its additional flood insurance coverage annually. The city has $10 million in flood insurance coverage through GERMA for property and mobile equipment. The GERMA coverage period is May 1st of 2022 to May 1st of 2023. That policy renewal was approved at the May 4th, 2022 commission meeting. The NFIP and Lloyd's policies are additional flood coverage spanning a different policy period. McGinney-Gordon each year searches insurance markets to identify providers who will extend maximum coverage for the best value. Since we renewed last year, there's been a change in the rating methodology used by the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP for short. McGinney-Gordon secured quotes for new NFIP coverage that could replace the more expensive Lloyd's coverage. The quotes are included on the attached flood insurance summary prepared by McGinney-Gordon. If you will look at the Excel spreadsheet that I've attached that shows our flood insurance, there are 3 properties, the 3 listed at the top of the schedule, that are covered by national flood insurance policies, and then 7 below are covered by the Lloyd's of London policy. Comparing the 2021 premium column to the 2022-23 premium column, the individual NFIP policies decreased in total by $2,116. The Lloyd's of London policy increased by $3,110, which is an increase of 10%. Fred secured policy quotes for us on all of our properties that have been insured by Lloyd's in the past from NFIP. And those revised quotes are in the optional column that you see there. The last two columns show us our quotes. The NFIP quoted coverage is $16,812 less than the Lloyd's policy, with deductibles of $1,250 for each property, which is lower for some of our policies, as you can see. The NFIP requires a 30-day waiting period from the date an application is submitted until the date coverage is effective. So what that means for us, in order for us to have flood insurance coverage, and we do have some options to consider, we would need to talk tonight about how we would like to proceed with our renewal. On the second page of my staff report, up at the top, and I always like to put this in, we are, no matter what we decide tonight, our budget for fiscal year 2023 will accommodate our decision, because we based the budgeted amount on premiums previously paid. So as I understand it from Fred, we've got some options to consider. We can, the first option, we can just renew things as they've been. That to me is not attractive, because we would have the same coverage, but we wouldn't save any money. The second option is the one to me that makes the most sense. We would renew the 3 NFIP policies as previously written, paying premiums totaling $4,635 for those 3 policies. We have the ability to renew the Lloyd's of London policy effective 8/5, so that our buildings, those 7 properties, have flood insurance. We can go ahead then and apply for the NFIP coverage to be effective 12/14 of 2022 on the 7 buildings that are insured by the Lloyd's of London. The rationale behind this is the Lloyd's requires a minimum payment of 25% to retain coverage. That minimum payment would be $8,564.40, and that would give us city flood coverage on those 7 properties for 90 days. So what I'm proposing is that we proceed with that in mind, and the NFIP payment of $16,978 would give the city an additional 12 months of coverage on those 7 buildings effective 12/4 of 2022, a total cost of $30,177.40. Also, again, I'd like to point out that we would be decreasing our deductibles on 4 of the Lloyd's policies. And then a third option would be that we not renew the Lloyd's of London policy for the 7 buildings. We apply for the NFIP policies. The downside of that is it would leave us without flood coverage until that NFIP policy would kick in after 30 days. Because we are in hurricane season, that is not one that I would recommend or think we should proceed with. So my recommendation is that we proceed with option 2. And Fred is here tonight to answer any questions. I also always like to point out that this schedule shows us our additional flood coverage. On page 1 of my staff report, I have points number 3 and number 4, just to remind us that we've got $10 million in flood insurance coverage with GERMA, with that big policy that we renewed in May. So between GERMA and these additional policies, we've got $14,787,700 in flood coverage.
Thank you, Ms. Veely, and thank you for your work on this. I know you presented also to the Finance Committee, and we appreciate you taking the staff time to get it to us early so we can take a look at these options. So we appreciate you. Any questions for Ms. Veely?
You know, I've got a question about the, first of all, our 8th Street building, if you look on the GIS, is listed as the owner as the Kiwanis Club trustee. And I brought this to our attorney's attention before the meeting. He's going to check into that. I thought we'd checked into it already and probably it just hadn't been changed, but it does not show us as ownership.
And John, Commissioner Kaysen, I'm glad you did point that out, because if you all remember, I've been asking about that and checking in on that, because our prior assistant city manager brought this to our attention. Miss Tanette brought this to our attention a couple of years or so ago regarding titling.
Okay, so we're going to check into that and get that straightened out. The next thing is the replacement cost on that building on our graph is $434,500. And the GIS has the value. I had notes on all this stuff and I walked off and left them on my desk. So
Now, are you saying 8th Street or are you saying
8th
Union Street?
8th Street.
8th Street, the replacement cost is $1,688,000.
Okay, but the GIS shows it at 178,000. I wrote Union Street down here,
okay.
and you're right. But the GIS shows it at 178,000. So we need to look at that. I don't think we need to do anything other than just correct what the amount of coverage is on there. And that really is I checked one other, and again, I apologize for walking off without my notes, but I cannot remember. The others that I checked were very close.
Uh-huh.
They were GIS to what we've got here that we're paying for insurance is very, very close.
I don't have it with me, but I think 2 years ago, we had all of our properties assessed by an independent, valued by an independent company. And I don't know what that value was assessed at, but I do remember looking at it in total when we did our GERMA renewal, and everything seemed to be in order. So, but we can check that.
Good. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions for Ms. Veely? Hearing none, I think what is before us is time for a motion. We have options 1, 2, and 3 with the department recommendation being option 2.
I'll make a motion to approve option 2 as requested by staff.
Second.
Do we need to amend that based on on values, any discrepancy in values or not? Does that need to be added in there?
I don't think the value that Commissioner
I
Casey
don't think
is
it'd be
looking
there.
at is
No.
on the GIS, and it is not reflective here, the value here, the building value here is $498,000, which we think is.
Just usually based on an appraisal anyways. So, okay, thank you.
Perfect. We have a motion with first and a second to move on forward with the department recommendation. Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Veely. We will now move on to consider approval of financial reports as of June 30th, 2022. Director Mills. You good?
For the month of June, we had senators over revenues of $1,700,000. However, the month of June, we did make our annual payments to our pension plan, about $1 million. And that before June is a likely cost of revenues. Also, we have sales tax. Year to date, we have revenues that were expenditures of over $2 million. Now, after telling you this is June 30th, this is fiscal year again. These are not office numbers, and they will go on. There will be revenues added, and there will be expenditures added, but which give us a fair bit. We will not be. We have cash balance at $7 million. That money is a private sale. I've been checking today at where the fund one is for the second month higher than what myself is saying. So I mentioned that just with saying about Loss year today will be about 47% for the month of June compared to last year, about 11%. So we can estimate for the year at 11% for the private year. I'll have more tax to be down 21 12% for the month. However, their taxes are about 21%. So those numbers have finally even out for a few years ago when we first started. They let play involved. Next page is plot 6. You will see the page on the left-hand side of the balance of approximately $3 million. I won't go into great detail. This is the mini all their codes and how decision expanded on projects by itself. There is a balance of allocated funds of $478,000. That's still allocated projects. Next page is plot 5. We got about $1,400,000, which we have supplied you on a backup budget. Forest Street Commons Fund, we have not spent any funds during the year, and we have not taken any money other than getting less than $600 for the year. We have a balance in the Street Commons Fund, $338,000. Residential area on purpose fund, we have revenues $342,000, $393,000 for that. And $51,000 cash balance at $631. That cash balance is not alarming. Basically, just You'll see that, you know, that's $9,204,000 on the market funds. We have actually spent $262,000 of that. For factors of strong and great aspects. And the added area is going back to grant 95,000. The area. And then we have allocation that is basically our very well, so all of that can be done. We have revenue $1,000,000, $1,000,000, revenue services $1,000,000, and business maybe $107,000. Allocated $4.6 million that we still refer and allocate $807,000, which is the remaining funds for our $300,000 that is out there to be designated for whatever. Put that on. Sanitation fund on the next slide, revenue $2.2 million. $1.8 million. And we still have money allocated for the landfill. Sanitation bills, actually that $8,000. And three days, for utility fund, we have inflows of $5,000 and expenditures of $9,000. The expenditures are revenue $63,000. So we do have a tax balance $430,000. Additional information, animal health, since traffic expenses $8,179. And that was for the last year, thanks for it. And then the recreation park expense is $4,500 building, $1,500 for logs, $500 for equipment, and we did a subsidized fee that we have to pay for the recreation. Funding, $4,052. Year-to-date, that was $7,378. And you can see at the bottom of the last page is to let out our center. Total $18,000. Year-to-date, $31,000. We are either in smallest wages to also includes the workers who will do some work.
Any questions? I do want to say thank you for getting that information for us, and thank you to Public Works for fixing that light. I know that is a extremely busy pedestrian intersection for that light to have been out, so thank you for their work. Any questions for Director Mills? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the finance report as presented.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you so much, Director Mills. We will now move into or adjourn for executive session for the reason of real estate litigation. Litigation.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the commission meeting for executive session for litigation.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. We are adjourned for executive session. We are back from executive session. No action was taken. I will now open it for a motion to adjourn. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? First and second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Talking about the Zoom? Yeah, the Zoom. Is he in town or we Zoom? Oh, okay.